Back in 1978, my wife, Frankie, and I were attending Golden Gate Baptist Seminary, and we started looking for a practical way to add to our seminary experience. We decided to take a summer class focused on starting a church. But the whole idea was to start a church in 10 weeks during the summer one time in an area where Baptists or other evangelicals were not well represented. And this course required that we read 10 books and then write a book report on each one of them, and then meet weekly with the area missionary and the sponsoring church pastor, plus write a report for them on what we had done during the week, keep a daily journal, write a summary of the 10 weeks, and then on the side we would try to start a church. Bob Wells, who was the area missionary at the time, chose us to come to Dayton, Nevada. The rest of the students were stuck in California and didn't get to come to Nevada. On Memorial Day weekend, we drove 250 miles to scout out the area. We knew that it was going to be close to Lake Tahoe, so it was going to be like the Colorado area we came from. We met with the sponsoring church pastor, Paul Lewis, of First Baptist Church, Carson City, and some of the locals who had been praying for a church to start in Dayton. At that time, there certainly was some shock when we finally came down Dayton Hill, and all we saw was a small, dusty ranch town outside of Carson City that had less than 1,000 people living in the whole valley.
We started out by knocking on doors, and I mean we knocked on doors until our knuckles were sore. Seriously sore. I did not want anybody touching my knuckles. We knocked on doors all over, and no matter where we went, people were not receptive. We even got comments like, the reason we moved out here is so people would leave us alone. And so that was our reception. We had read books, to do it this way, and of course the books didn't have the answer. By the end of the summer, it was just Jerry and me. During our time holding Bible study in the Backyard Bible Club, we had one kid come to Backyard Bible Club. She did receive Christ as her Savior. Her parents would not let her get baptized. And later on they moved. But then a number of years later, they came back through and said that the whole family had come to Jesus. Bob Wells was the DOM at the time, and he asked us if we would consider staying, and our absolute answer was no. We actually had planned on going into missions overseas, and he said, well, will you pray about it? Well, you can't say no. So we did pray about it, and God convinced us both that we needed to be here. I was in tears when I finally said, I know we're supposed to be here. And so we started the commute. It was a 500-mile round trip from Mill Valley, California for the next 5 months. And the study slowly started growing. And one day after Bible study, there was a lady named Levon Dykus, and we were walking toward the front door, and she goes, do you really think that there'll ever be a church here? And I said, yeah, I really do. I really do think that.
Eventually, after a short time, and because of some various circumstances, the group wanted a place to meet of their own. First Baptist Church at the time had been holding a piece of property that they were only making interest payments on. And then after a bunch of obstacles, we had a mobile chapel that was owned by the Home Mission Board, which is now the North American Mission Board of the Southern Baptist Convention. We moved it from Walker Lake to the property that we have here on Flowery Avenue. And after we modified it to make the county happy, God was moving mightily, bringing people from all walks of life to give their life to Christ and grow this church. There were ranchers, hairdressers, businessmen, builders, even the remnants of a hippie movement, John and Mary Dennison, who she was an ex-nun, who lived in a converted school bus, and they were the first people to be saved and baptized in our church.
Sunday school for the kids was held in a van. So if it was, that was on summer days. If it was winter, then we held it in this little tiny room at the very back of the trailer that we were in. If it was summer, we would go into the van because it was a lot easier not to be a little bit noisy. The adults met in the trailer, and then after a while, we were completely out of room. It was time to build our very first building. God provided all the help and the material we needed every step of the way. Local volunteers leveled the land, dug the footings, put in a foundation and floor joists and all that sort of thing. People from Mississippi and Oklahoma came in to build the outside framework, and then Oklahoma hung the sheetrock and helped the inside get put together. We had the one $20,000 no interest loan on the building, and in less than a year we were debt free. However, we still wondered, will this building ever be full? And in a fairly short time, a year and a half, people were actually sitting in the windowsills. We had once again had a space issue, which is the very best problem to have.
Needing more room, we said, okay, what are we going to do? And so I drew up the plans for the next building, which would double the size of what we had. And with the help of a foundation out of Texas, we were able to purchase a baptistry of our own, so no more going to Carson City or using the river, and we got more chairs. This time we mostly used local and congregational help to build this addition. Once again, God was good, and we were able to build with only a $20,000 no interest loan. And once again, this was paid off in less than a year. We were a loving church, continually growing and praying and serving the Lord here at Dayton. At that time, I think I estimated that about 60% of the church was made up of new believers who had come to know Christ as their Savior. As always, we made up of a lot of people from different walks of life. Eventually, we're out of room again. God blessed us and helped us build our third building, which took about 3 years to build. This time we didn't question if God would fill it, but there were days we wondered if He would ever build it. This was a lesson for the church on perseverance. But God has always provided, He has always been faithful, and His will has always been accomplished. In June of 1998, the building was completed and dedicated debt-free.
For us, the class that was supposed to last 10 weeks
lasted 40 years. And in 2018, we knew that it was time for us to retire and to begin a new chapter in our lives, and for God to bring a new couple, one to pastor and to serve and to lead and to teach His flock here at Calvary Baptist Dayton.